Question: when dealing with HVAC, heating and air conditioning, or air conditioning, the question is are we actually cooling a room, or when we use an air conditioning system, or are we actually taking the heat and removing the heat from the room and removing the humidity of the room? So this is a decision somebody better in the know that will maybe perhaps have to explain. However, if one takes the room temperature is at a certain degree and you start removing that heat, as we have an A coil over here, and the A coil absorbs the heat from the room and goes to the A coil. This A coil, so to speak, fictitious little scratch diagram here. This also starts to sweat the A coil. One may see a 3/4 inch pipe. So when one may see a 3/4 inch pipe drain outside of the wall, this is because in the summertime, when this thing begins to sweat, it produces sweat, and then there's a lot of times there's a little pan under here. The pan catches the condensation, and then the condensation shoots out the wall or whatnot. So the question is, this is room temperature. It absorbs the heat. So the heat, now, this is more scientific than I would like to elaborate on because my knowledge is very limited, but perhaps, I'm not certain, one can fact check this, I'm not certain if this is accurate or not. I think heat actually goes to cold. So if heat goes to cold, this A coil here, when the refrigerant goes into this A coil, it begins to vaporize. There's a thing called superheat and subcooling, and it begins to go from liquid to vapor. And then when it goes to vapor, this temperature here is cooler, perhaps, I'm thinking, than the room temperature. So the room temperature goes to the A coil, and when it goes to the A coil, then there's a fan motor that actually circulates air, that pulls air from the return duct and then blows it back in on the supply side. So you have two sides. You have a supply and a return. The return is sucking it in. That's the very one reason to keep your filters clean at all times. If you have pets or any kind of animals around the house, especially long-haired animals that shed, my opinion is it may not be a bad idea in the summer months at minimum to change it once a month. So this allows this A coil to for a lot of condensation. It allows it to breathe so that it doesn't get blocked up. So it's able to absorb this heat. Once it absorbs this heat, then you have humidity in the room here. Once the humidity in the room here goes here, and then it goes out through a little pipe in the wall. And in the summertime, and one may notice the little PVC pipe, maybe 3/4 of an inch, generally speaking, hanging out the wall, protruding out the wall or whatnot, or maybe if you got a 2-story house upstairs, one may notice the warmer or the hotter the temperature, the more condensation it seems to produce, because the system is working much harder and it's pulling more heat and more humidity. So, and especially in humid areas. So, but in non-humid areas, it's still, I'm sure there's still humidity. I'm thinking in the air. I may be wrong on that, but don't hold me to that. But basically, the A coil goes in here, the refrigerant. It starts to go from a liquid to vapor after coming through the TXV valve. So then this cools off. This heat goes here, humidity goes here. So then what begs the question next? Are we pumping cold air into a house, or are we removing heat from the house? So this will be a homework study one would have to do for themselves, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you have a room that's 80 degrees and you remove 10 degrees of heat from that room perhaps may feel more comfortable at 70 degrees than it did 80. And in addition to that, if the room has high humidity and you removed, say, 10 degrees of heat from that room, and then you remove the humidity as well and discharge the humidity out the wall, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, again, to figure out that it may feel more comfortable in that particular room. So the question here is: does an air conditioning system cool a room, or does it remove heat and remove heat and humidity? Removing heat, the temperature begins to drop. So this is a decision each individual will have to research and homework, but this is kind of a quick schematic of how an air conditioning works in a simplified version. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.